Hi everybody, welcome to the new episode of We Watch. People, in July 2014, Indian government announced an international competition to design the National War Memorial, which was supposed to be built adjacent to the India Gate.
This is the story of a nation that rose as one. The time is ripe for Indians from all corners of the nation to rally together and remember those who fought and sacrificed.
Since independence, more than 26,000 soldiers of the Indian Armed Forces have made the supreme sacrifice to defend the sovereignty and integrity of the country.
India Gate stands as a testament to those who laid down their lives during the World War I in 1914. And the new memorial was supposed to honor all the soldiers who served in various war and multiple counter-insurgency operations since 1947. But between the World War I and 1947, there was another war which India fought. The war whose stories has been silenced and the sacrifices has been pushed into the shadows. And if you guessed it right, I am talking about the World War II. The war which shaped the India's path to the independence. And today in this video, we will uncover the forgotten war that shaped India's path to the independence. I will be talking about the war that has no memorial, no homage, yet changed the course of history. People, in 1939, when Germany invaded Poland to uphold their commitment to protect Poland, England and France also declared war upon Nazi Germany. By that point of time, India was yet another colony of Britishers. So the British Viceroy of India declared India as war with Germany without even consulting any Indian leaders. Britishers recruited over 2.5 million of Indian men, which were then trained and deployed on various fronts to fight against the Axis powers. You will be shocked to know, by that point of time, Indian Army was the largest volunteer force in the World War. Millions of soldiers voluntarily enlisted themselves to fight for the Britishers. But the question over here is, why the hell any Indian will fight for the Britishers while many Indians were already fighting against the Britishers? Why the Indian will fight for a colonial power which were oppressing them? The answer lies in the socio-economic situation of that time. People, in 1939, it has already been a century since Britishers started looting India through its gold and goods. The British policies pushed India to hell of poverty and unemployment. There was a hunger spreading just everywhere. There was no social and economic condition of a common Indian people. In that situation, the job in army seemed like a promise of steady salary and a good social status for most of the common households. Families sent their sons not out of loyalty, but because of the economic depression. Yet everyone didn't have the same mindset. For some people, it was believed that their contribution to war will speed up India's freedom movement. But reality was much more complicated. Indian soldiers fought very bravely from South Asia to Europe, marking their significant role in defending Allied powers. But like every war comes with a cost, this war also had a cost. And the cost was paid by the millions of lives of Indian people. The cost of India's involvement was staggering. Almost 90,000 Indian soldiers died during the battle, and the situation at home was even worse. Multiple complex and interplay factors and some wartime policies by the British colonial mindset caused the Bengal famine of 1943. More than 3 million people in Bengal died due to the starvation, disease and malnutrition. This was the sixth time of total casualties of entire British Empire in World War II. There was nothing to eat. People were selling their sons and daughters for a small amount of rice. Wives and the young women ran off with the people they didn't even know. People were reduced to skeletons like a ghost. The entire community was devastated, creating a social and economic shortage across India. Yet for some, the war had brought financial stabilities. The veterans found better jobs and good financial status in society. India's war effort also transformed its economy. Factories producing the war supplies boomed up, making India an industrial hub for the Allied powers. But the most profound change was political. War galvanized India's nationalism like never before. The Quit India movement erupted in 1942, demanding an end of British rule. At the same time, the war had financially weakened Britain, forcing them to reconsider their hold over India. The immense human and economic cost has sown the seed of decolonization. Also in Indian Army, while some fought for the Britishers, some turned against them. The first Indian National Army was established in 1942 in Singapore under the leadership of Captain Mohan Singh. The initial formation occurred when the Japanese defeated Britishers in Singapore. The Japanese captured over 45,000 of Indian soldiers as their war prisoners. The army was initially recognized as a military wing of Indian Independence League, which aimed to promote nationalism in India. Later on, in July 1943, a prominent nationalist leader, Subhash Chandra Bose, took over the charge, and the INA was restructured and rebranded as the Azad Hind Fauj. The INA symbolized the rising tide of nationalism during the World War. Despite of all these, the contribution of India in World War II was completely erased, not just by the Britishers, but the independent India also. So now let's discuss why India really ignored its contribution in World War II. People, the very first point comes in mind is the colonial legacy. During the World War II, India was still under the British rule, and the British government did not acknowledge. The next point for independent India could be the class and the caste dynamics. The experience of those who was involved in war was significantly based on class and caste. Many of them were the low caste and the low class workers who supported the war out of necessity rather than the patriotism. One prominent reason is India's post-independent narrative. After gaining independence in 1947, India focused on building national identity, which emphasized their struggle against the colonialism, rather than one where colonial power were supported by the Indians. Also, because of the post-independence rivalry with Pakistan, both the new nation needed fresh stories for the self-legitimation, rather than focusing on the shared wartime experiences. And in the end of the story, I would just like to say, if you don't know where you have come from, how would you appreciate where you are going? So let's forgive but not forget.